up, Epic Church? Hey, my name's Justin. I'm the pastor here at our Parkside location. Parkside, let's give a shout, make some noise, welcome our other locations. Come on. Woo! Hey, we're so glad that you're here today. Welcome to 2018. I know it's already the middle of January, but I just kind of want to forget about those first 2 weeks. Anybody else with me? I just want to put those first 2 weeks behind me. It was way too cold. We had to deal with the bomb cyclone. And does anyone else think that that's just a scary weather term, like bomb cyclone? For real, like cyclone is bad enough, right? A cyclone is coming. Watch out, that's bad enough. They got to throw a bomb in there. Like, what? Why do you do that? And I kind of just want to put those first 2 weeks of coldness and icicles behind us and start over. And so I'm kind of declaring for us as a church, ready? We're just going to begin this as our new year. So here we go. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Yeah! So glad to celebrate with all of you. Welcome to church. Well, this is really good for a lot of us because, let's be honest, for many of us, we've made some resolutions, and in the first 2 weeks, they've already flopped. So you just got to restart, right? I call a mulligan for starting over. It's a good thing. Also, it's good for our church because for many of us, this is our very first time getting all together as a church face to face. And we've had some circumstances over the past couple weeks, but last week, Center City, you guys got to meet together, and I heard it was an incredible time. I heard the Center City crowd is alive and energetic, and God is on the move in Center City, and you guys better be going crazy right now cheering. Come on. I know you are in Center City. I know it, yeah. See, man, but for the rest of us, we weren't able to meet together last week. 3 out of our 4 locations meet in high schools, and last week, it wasn't our decision. The Philadelphia School District closed down their buildings, and so we had to get creative and do something different, and so we, on the fly, developed an online experience called #EpicEverywhere, and we asked you to interact with that and post some pictures online, and you guys got really creative and fun. And we pulled out some of the pictures to show you from what happened last week. So here's one of them here. This first picture, check this out. This is from Mark and Liz Doretto from Fairmount. They're cute kids, and their dog wearing Epic swag. That's pretty cool. So there's that. And now they're parents of twins, and so they're pro parents of newborn twins. That's how they got that pose. I don't know how that happened, but that's cool. Check out this other picture right here. This is from Kat and Keith Humphreys from Parkside. And at first glance, it looks just like a regular picture of kids laying around. But then you read their caption and you discover this is what it's about. Listen, she wrote this: because there's something that happens in circles that just doesn't happen in rows. All right? And she said, #EpicChurch, #EpicEverywhere, #I love my church. Isn't that clever? That's cool. And so if you know anything about our life groups, you know we always say that there's something that happens in circles in groups that doesn't happen in rows while you're here. This third picture, check it out. This is from Erica Hess, also from Parkside. What you're looking at is a bubble bath with a journal and a Bible and Epic Everywhere on there. Isn't that great? And she said this. She wrote in the caption, she said, if you can't have church at the physical location due to weather, why not watch it at the warmest, most comfortable place possible, right? In the bathtub. I think that's a first, but that's fun and creative. So thanks for playing along. There's a ton more on there, and you search the #EpicEverywhere. You'll see them, and we'll be sending some gift cards to you guys this week for your creativity. Thanks for that. But man, I love our church. I love that we get to have fun together, and the weather can't stop us. Right? And this is going to be such an incredible year ahead, and I believe that God is going to do something really powerful in your lives and in our church. I believe that. And so we're starting this year off the right way, all together as a church. We're doing prayer week together. And your location pastor just told you about this. But we're taking time every morning this week to start our day focused on prayer and reading a Bible plan together. And then we're going to cap it off with worship night on Friday night. Come on, man. We're going to set ourselves up to see God move in this place, in our lives, in our family, in our jobs. I'm just getting started. You guys ain't with me yet. So let me just back it up. All right, let me back it up. Let me let you warm up, catch up. All right, get your breath, and let me stick to my notes. Hold on. All right. Today, we're going to tackle week 2 in our series. At the end of the message today, I'm going to give you 3 questions, okay? I'm going to give you 3 questions at the end, and you don't necessarily need to write them down because we're going to put these questions on our Facebook and our Instagram, so you can catch them on there. But if you want to write them down, everyone has notes, and their connection card is a spot on the back for you to take notes, so you can follow along on there if you'd like. But I'll give you 3 questions, and I encourage you to talk about them with the people that are close to you, okay? Talk about them in your life group. and really consider them. So that's at the end. But let me start today by asking you the question that we asked last week. This is the question we asked last week. It says this: what do you really want? So what do you want? What do you really want? Now, I know that a bunch of us are thinking this.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really wanna say.
Right? Yeah. That better have been my wife. I'm just saying. Yeah. Exactly. That's what you're thinking, right? So last week we talked about this idea. We said this. We said, if we get what we want now, we may not get what we really want later. And see, all of us have experienced this to some extent. See, we've undermined our own future. We've undermined our own hopes and dreams because we made some decisions to get what we want now, but it didn't lead to what we really wanted. And now we wish we could go back. Well, we wish we could go back and not start that relationship. We wish we can go back and not open that credit card. We wish we can go back and not listen to the Spice Girls, right? And then last week we dug a little bit deeper and we said this, that lurking in the shadows of what we want is what we value. What we value. And we use the phrase lurking in the shadows because it's not so obvious, right? What we value is often hidden. There's very little around us that nudges us towards thinking about or considering what are the things that I actually value. It's hard to think about what you value. I mean, we think about what we want all the time. We think about our wants all the time, right? Well, at least I do. In fact, I made a list of my wants. I want a new iPhone X. I want a 65-inch flat screen, super high def OLED HDR TV. Can I get an amen? Yeah. I want milkshakes. I want muscles. And I realize that I won't get muscles from milkshakes, but I want them both. I want to remember everything that I read. I want to learn how to code. I want to go on a cruise. I want to take my kids to Disney World. I want the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles. I'm so glad I could say that today. I had question marks next to that in my notes yesterday. Way to go. See, I want a lot of things, right? You want a lot of things, and I know we're just playing, but let's really think about it, okay? Let's think about it. What is it that you want? What is it that you want? What do you want for your relationship goals? Come on, whether you're that's a friendship or whether that's a family goal, like being a brother or a sister, or a son or a daughter. What do you want for your business or your job or your side hustle that you got going on? What do you want? What do you want for your dating relationship or in your marriage or being a husband or a wife? What do you want? What do you want your kids to act like? What do you want them to stop acting like? Right? What do you want for your financial status? Think about this. What do you want for your health and fitness and body weight goals? What do you want for your spiritual growth? What do you want for your schedule and for your pace of life and for your calendar? What is it that you really want to be the person that you want to be? And we think about our wants all the time, but we don't think about what we value. Whatever you want, you need to consider, why do I want that? You got to think about, why do I want that? What's the value in that? This is where we need to play the why game. You guys know what the why game is? It's when you ask the question why over and over and over and over and over again. Why, right? Kids do this all the time, right? You probably did it when you were a kid. My son Micah, he's turning 5 next month, and he's starting to ask the question why all the time, which is a little troubling for me as a parent because I don't have really good answers to some of his questions. And so I do what every other self-respecting parent does. I just make something up, right? And it's give him some answers to his why. And so psychologists, they recommend that you ask this question why 7 layers deep. You've heard of 7-layer dip, right? This is 7-layer deep, okay? This is asking why. This is what you do. You ask the question why, and you keep asking why, until you get 7 layers deep into that question. So let me give you an example of how this plays out. A lot of us here today, and maybe one of our other locations, you want to get out of debt this year. Like that's your goal. Anybody want to get out of debt this year? That's your goal. And so now that's your want. We've identified your want. Now we need to identify the value behind that and ask the question, why 7 layers deep? So maybe it goes something like this. You want to get out of debt this year. Well, why do you want to get out of debt? Well, I want to get out of debt so that I can have more money available. Well, why do you want more money available? So that I can have less stress and pressure in my life. Well, why do you want to have less stress and pressure in your life? Because I'm a better person when I'm not stressed. Well, why do you want to be a better person? And you keep on asking that why. And you can see how if you dig down deeper, you get from the head to the heart in your thinking. Why do you want to hit that fitness goal? Why do you want to get married? Why do you want to change your job? Why? Now listen, this is really important for where we're going today. Okay, this is foundational for what we're going to build from here. Because this is the case for all of us. Lurking in the shadows of our wants, our values, that we rarely ever stop to think about. And when we begin to ask the question, why, we can start to identify, what are the values that are important to me? You see, we will never get what we really want until we discover what we really value. We'll never get what we really want until we discover what we really value. And this is so important because all of us, we're running so fast and we're so busy and we're running so hard, and that on our own, we probably won't slow down enough to discover what this is. I mean, we won't take the time to figure out what that thing really is. And here's the deal. No one else can answer this question for you. What do you really value? No one else can answer that question for you. There's no preacher, no webinar, no book, no BuzzFeed quiz that can answer that question for you. You got to do it yourself. You got to put the work in and ask, what do you really value? Because you'll never really get what you really want until you understand what you really value. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you're not a church person, if you're not a religious person or a person of faith or a Christian or whatever, and you're here though, you're one of our locations or watching online, or maybe someone invited you, or it's new year, new you, so you're here and checking it out, right? And you regardless of whatever you think about God, regardless of whether you're a Christian or not, this is true for you. Because this isn't a Christian thing. This isn't a religious thing. This is just a thing. This is just true, right? And so I'm a Christian, so I happen to believe that God created us to operate this way. But whatever you happen to believe about faith in God, until you discover what you really value, you'll never get what you really want. And actually, next week, we're going to get into some really practical things that give you some exercises to work through, some things that you can help you discover what you really value, and that'll be really good. That's next week. But before we get there, we got to talk about the hang-up. We got to talk about the hang-up. See, there's a hang-up that all of us face when it comes to this. So this is what the problem is. Choosing valuable is unnatural. Choosing valuable is unnatural. See, the reason this is so difficult isn't because you lack discipline. The reason this is so difficult isn't because you lack information. The reason this is so difficult isn't because you haven't downloaded the right app or started the right routine or whatever. The reason this is difficult is beyond all of that. See, there is an internal conflict. There is an internal conflict that all of us have experienced between what comes natural and versus what we really value. There's an internal conflict between the natural and between what we really value. And most people are not able to break past the natural to get to what's most valuable. Most people aren't. But when you do, you'll discover that, wow, your whole life can change. And you'll be glad you did. And I want that for you. And I think you want that for you. But it's a struggle. It's a battle. And it's not an easy battle to win. Now, someone who describes this internal battle of what's going on inside of us, someone who describes that really well is one of the writers of the New Testament. But this guy actually wrote over half of the New Testament. Now, if you're not too familiar with the Bible, that's okay. Let me break it down for you real quick, give you an overview. The Bible is divided into two sections, Old Testament and New Testament. It's a collection of books that were written, it's a collection of books and letters that were written by human authors inspired by the Holy Spirit of God, and to put them together into this Bible. And the whole Bible tells the story of God's desire to have a relationship with people. But people have made choices that broke that relationship. And so God has made a solution to repair that relationship through Jesus Christ. And that's the story of Scripture. And so a majority of the New Testament was written by the Apostle Paul, who was an uber smart, high-ranking Jewish leader who had an experience with God. And when he did, that changed his life, and he turned and jumped on the other team. Now he started to be a leader of the Jesus movement. And he started to start churches and teach those churches and write letters to instruct those churches. And it's in one of those letters to the Christians in the city of Rome that we get this letter, this book in the Bible called Romans. And that's where we're going to read from today, in the book of Romans that the Apostle Paul wrote. And in this letter, he describes the best he can. He puts into words what's going on inside of him the best he can, this internal battle that we all face when it comes to what's natural versus what's valuable. And before we look at that, though, let me just mention this. This is probably going to ring true for all of us, because all of us have experienced this at some time or another. When we put it on the screen of what he writes down, you're going to be like, yep, yeah, I've been there, done that, yep, exactly, right? And I love this about the Bible is that it's so practical, it's so applicable. It's real to life today. And I mean, you really should read the Bible, and you should. And if you think, man, I know I should read the Bible, but it's hard, I don't have time, I don't know how, then this next week is perfect for you. Because all together as a church, we're going to read the Bible together, and we're going to break it down in a reading plan on the Bible app, which breaks it down into little digestible pieces of Scripture that we can read and focus on each day. And that's your way to start a habit of reading the Bible. It's really good. And you'll discover that the Bible speaks to like stuff that we all face, like this, that all of us have experienced. Here's what Paul says about the struggle that we all face. Here's what he says. I do not understand what I do. Has anybody else been there before? I do not understand what I do, right? Yeah, I'm with Paul. Hashtag I'm with Paul. All the way. Like, I've been there. I've done that. I can relate. I think all of us can relate, because we don't even have to look back that far into our lives, into our history, to find a time when we've done something that after we did it, we thought to ourselves, why? You idiot. Why would you do that? Like, why did you do that? Why did you eat that? Why did you text that? Why did you sleep in? Why did you call her? Why did you call her again? Why did you call her again? Right? Why'd you buy more of those? Why did you do that? I do not understand what I do. Now let's just think about that for a moment. Why is that? Why don't you do what you want to do? Why don't you do what you want to do? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Why do I do that? That's what this message is all about. There's conflict between what I value and between my human nature. And it's a big deal. I mean, this is not just getting more information. This is not just getting more discipline. This is not even about your New Year's resolutions and goals, though those are probably good for you. This is a deeper level than all of that. The Apostle Paul says it like this. He says, I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, there's our key word for this series, how to get what you really want, right? We're figuring out what we want. He says, I'm with you guys. I'm with you. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. Now, I know this is a little Dr. Seuss, but follow here, okay? Because this is what Paul's trying to say. He breaks it down. He says, there's something that I really want. There's something that I really want, but I settle for something less than that. And I end up hating it. Now, let me say something that might be for just some of us here today. For some of us, if you're honest, you hate yourself. I mean, you've made some decisions, and you hate the decisions that you've made, and so you just hate yourself. And you know, I know you want to blame it on the circumstances and on the culture and on your childhood, but you've made some things, and you've been at the decision points all along, and you just hate what you do. The Apostle Paul says, I get that. I get that. I'm right there with you. Because when I do what I don't want to do, I hate what I do. But listen, hating what you do is just about a half an inch away from hating who you see in the mirror. And it's a struggle. It's difficult. It's a big deal. It's important. Because there's a conflict between what we value and between our human nature. And so I know we all want to become better people. We do. I believe that. We all want to become better people. But oftentimes, we just can't carry that out. And Paul goes on and he describes exactly that. He says this. He says, for I have the desire. He has the want. We have the want. We have that. I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. I can't carry it out. You see, that's the problem. That's the problem. And so what's the point? Here it is. What we naturally want is often in conflict with what we ultimately want. What we naturally want is often in conflict with what we ultimately want. See, I want to be healthy. I do. I want to be healthy, maybe like some of you. And I know that I'm happier and I'm better off when I eat well and when I exercise. But there I go again, skipping my workout and opening up another bag of Doritos, right? Man, those spicy, sweet, chili Doritos are so good, aren't they? And I love that they're so good. You want to know some real talk? So, here's the thing. In fact, I almost convinced myself that to explain this to you well, I needed to bring up a bag of chips as a prop. But really, all I wanted to do was eat them later. And I was trying to think of a reason to have that so I could eat them later. How ridiculous is that? I am so lame. But why do I do that? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Why do I do that when I know I ultimately want to be healthy? I ultimately want to love my wife and never make her question my love. But there are times when I say stuff and I do stuff and it's like, boy, if you know what's good for you, right? I am the biggest idiot in the world sometimes. Why do I do that? Why do I do that? See, what we naturally want is often in conflict with what we ultimately want. It's often in conflict between what we value, what we talked about earlier, that valuable thing that we got to ask why to discover. But valuable doesn't come naturally. Catch this, come on. Valuable doesn't come naturally. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. You see, Scripture describes and our own human experiences confirm that our naturalness isn't very good. It's not. See, the Apostle Paul wrote about this in a different letter to a different church, the church of Galatia. And he wrote about this. He says this. He says, when you follow the desires of your sinful nature, the naturalness, that's what we're talking about. He says it right there, your sinful nature. When you follow the desires of that nature, the results are very clear. He says, listen, when you do that, the results are clear. Like, you already know what's going to happen. You already know. He talks about us having a sinful nature, and here's why. Because Christians believe, and Jesus taught, and the writers of the New Testament elaborated on, that our nature is broken. Our nature is broken. See, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with you. There's something that we have a broken, sinful nature. So when we follow those desires out of our sinful nature, the results, he says, the results are very clear. And we already know this. If I were to put a whiteboard up here, and I was to write on the top, and I was going to say, okay, guys, we're going to make a list, all right? And so I need some help making this list. And I wrote at the top, what are some of the results of our broken, fallen nature? What are some of the results of our broken, fallen nature? And I said, guys, I need some help. Give me some shout out, some things to make a list. And I started writing them down. You started shouting them out, and I started making a list, and I'd write them down. We'd fill up that whole board, all right? Because we know what the results are. We'd write it down. We'd be like, all right. And we'd say things like that. We say things that hurt people. Yep, that's the result of our broken, sinful nature. We hurt people with our words. Write that down. We're greedy. Yep, we're greedy. We're selfish. We're looking out for number one. Yep, write that down. We're angry. We take advantage of other people. Write that one down. We bend the truth. We lie and cheat. Yep, got that one. We demean other people. We belittle other people. We physically hurt others. We emotionally hurt others. Yep. We sexually hurt others, right? Hashtag me too. Write that one down. And the list could go on and on and on and on. And we'd stand back and we'd look at that list and say, yeah, if I'm honest, I see myself there. Yeah. Or you'd elbow the person next to you and be like, yep, you're number 4, 5, and 6. You know, like. But come on, let's be honest. We can identify our brokenness. We can. That's why things upset us when there's injustice and there's wrongdoing and there's an abuse of power. And it's pretty easy to spot it in politics and Hollywood. But if we're honest with ourselves, we can see it right here. And Paul gives us a list of some of these things. He says, when you follow the desires of your sinful nature, the results are very clear. And here's what he lists. He says, sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasures. He goes on and says these two words that we don't often talk about much. He says idolatry and sorcery. Do you know what idolatry is? Idolatry is putting things before God. Idolatry is putting things before other people. Now, I know that most of us, if you're watching other locations, most of us don't have like a carved wooden statue with a big belly kicking around your living room somewhere. But we can still fall into the trap of idolatry because all of us put other things before other people. We do. We all put other things before God. We do. It's idolatry. Sorcery. You know what that is? Sorcery? Yes, Harry Potter. Exactly. Yep. Sorcery. Right? I'm just kidding. But that's what we think about, don't we? We think about witches and wizards and the cloak of invisibility, right? All that cool stuff. But most of us are like, I don't got to worry about that. But the root of sorcery, you know what it is? The root of sorcery isn't just magic. It's about the desire to control people and to control outcomes. And we all fall into that trap, right? We all want to control other people and other outcomes around us. It's the root of sorcery. He keeps going on with his list. He's writing things down. He's saying hostility and quarreling and jealousy. And I'm not just talking about like middle school, you stole my boyfriend's jealousy, so I'm going to be mad at you in gym class. All right, that kind of jealousy. I'm talking about the comparison trap. I'm talking about, it's like that. It's this yucky thing inside of us that cheers when other people mess up. What is that inside of us? Like, what is that goes on inside of us that kind of celebrates when other people hit a low spot? Right? I mean, you got a friend who's always in shape and always trim, and then you see them next time and they gained a few pounds, and you're like, yeah! What is that yucky thing inside of you that would cause you to respond that way? Come on, let's be honest. We all do that. Somehow it makes us feel better about ourselves, and it has its roots in jealousy. And you can call it what you want, but you can't deny that it's there. And the writers of the New Testament, they called it part of our broken, sinful nature. We're broken inside. He goes on with the list. He says jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, dissension, division, envy, drunkenness. You know, all of us are a relationship or two away from someone who's destroying their family. We're all a relationship or two away from someone who's destroying their career or destroying their relationships or their finances or their future because of one or more of these things. And they would even say, it's not that I want to do that. It's not that I sit out and it's not that I want to do those things, but I do not understand what I want to do. I don't. And so they end up doing it again and again and again and again. What's wrong with me? Why do I do what I do? You see, we've got a problem. We've got a problem with what comes naturally to us. And it keeps us from getting what we really, really want. And this is a big deal. That's why we're talking about it this whole series, because this is a really big deal for us. No matter how disciplined you are, listen, no matter how disciplined you are, no matter how well you stick to your goals, no matter how much determination you can muster up, we all have this inner battle, this inner brokenness that keeps us from getting what we really, really want. But here's the good news. This is a battle that you can win. This is a struggle that you can overcome. You see, there is a way to embrace valuable over natural. There is a way to get what you really, truly want, to be who you were created to be, who God designed you to be. And we're going to talk about some of that how to get there next week. But I want to talk about one more passage, and then we'll wrap up today. This last passage, this was written by James. And James is cool. James is the brother of Jesus, and he believed that Jesus was the Son of God, which is, wow, if your brother believes that you're the Son of God, like, it's probably true, right? And so this is powerful that James would write testament about Jesus and what he taught. And James talks about this very struggle that we have, all of us have. And he says this in James chapter 1. He says, but each person, that's you and you and you and you in Center City and you in Fairmount and you in Roxborough, Each person, all of us, every single one of us, each person is tempted when they are dragged away. I want you to say this out loud with me. Come on, all of our locations. Ready? Dragged away. One more time. Ready? Dragged away. It's beautiful imagery, and I'll talk about it. Each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Dragged away. When's the last time you were dragged away? Listen, if you got kids, you got to drag them away all the time, right? You watch kids, you had kids. Remember when you were a kid? You got to drag them away all the time. You got to drag them away from desserts. You got to drag them away from the playground. You got to drag them away from the TV. You got to drag them away from the iPad. And why is it that it always happens right before bedtime, right? You're like, you got to drag them away. I remember when I was a kid, I got dragged away from Super Mario and Zelda. Remember that? I got dragged away from that. But think about this imagery, dragged away. It's grabbing someone and pulling them in another direction. This is the picture. Listen, this is the picture. Picture this, of someone who's trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to develop the right habit. They're trying to make the right decisions. They're trying to get what they really want. And then something comes along and drags them away. It's a battle. It's a struggle. They're dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. He came along or she came along and dragged me away. This opportunity came along and dragged me away. I got busy at work and it dragged me away. This old habit popped back up and dragged me away. And James explains it even more with some more imagery. He says this, check it. He says, then, after desire has conceived, watch this imagery. After desire has conceived, it gives birth to what? Sin. It gives birth to sin. And sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. You see, sin ultimately kills stuff. Sin ultimately undermines. It leaves us in a place of saying, I do not do what I really want to do. And I hate what I do. That's where that leads. And then James ends with this incredible instruction for all of us. He says this, don't be deceived. Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. It's almost like James, who wrote this down over 2,000 years ago to his audience back then, is reaching through the pages of history, and he's writing to us right here at Epic, at all of our locations, and everyone listening online, and says, listen, don't be deceived, dear brothers and sisters. Don't be deceived, Epic family. Don't be deceived, people of Philly. Don't be deceived. See, James knows that we're deceived easily. He knows that we're distracted easily. He says, don't be deceived. Don't be fooled. Don't trade ultimate for immediate. Don't do it. Don't trade what you ultimately want for what you immediately want. Don't trade what you ultimately want for what you naturally want. Don't be deceived. So come on, look at me. Look at me. Students, don't be deceived. Newlyweds, don't be deceived. Singles, don't be deceived. Young business hustler who's rising up in the ranks, don't be deceived. Men and women who are traveling for work, don't be deceived. Men and women who are kind of struggling in their marriage or their relationship, starting to look around, don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Don't trade what is ultimate for what is immediate. You follow? Don't trade what is valuable for what is natural. It's a battle. It's a struggle. I know, because I'm there with you. But it's so worth it. If we'll fix our eyes not on what is immediate, but on what is ultimate. And so here's what I want us to do. I told you in the beginning I was going to give you 3 questions at the end. Guess what? Here we are. I'm going to give you 3 questions. And I want you to think about and write about and talk to other people about these questions this week. In fact, I encourage you to talk about them with your life group. You need those other people around you. You need that circle around you to talk about this with. And so here's 3 questions. Here they are. Ready? The first one is this. Number 1 is, what do I really want? What do I really want? Now, this is the question that we're going to be asking all throughout this series. What do I really want? And it's because we want you to mull this over and to think about it, to really understand, what does this mean? To wrestle with it. What is most valuable to me? What is most important to me? Not just what is most natural, not just what is immediate. What do I really want? What do I value? Remember, you gotta ask the question, why, to dig down and get to what you value. What do you really want? You got to answer that question. That's number 1. Number 2, the second question is this. What keeps dragging me away? What keeps dragging me away? And you got to be honest here. Come on, no cover-ups. No cover-ups. Answer this honestly. What keeps interrupting your life? What keeps popping up? What keeps showing up? What or who keeps dragging you away from what you ultimately really want? And I know this is a really personal question, but don't avoid it. Answer it. Talk about it. What keeps dragging you away? The third one is this. Ready? Number 3. How long do I plan to let this drag me away from what I ultimately want? And follow this question. Ready? This refers to whatever you answered in number 2. Okay? So how long do I plan to let this drag me away from what I ultimately want? How long do you plan? How long will you allow this to undermine your life? How long will you wait? 2019? 2020? Another season? Another decade? Another marriage? You're going to wait till your kids are grown and gone? You're going to wait until you graduate? You're going to wait until you get married? I know that's what we think, right? It's like, well, I'm just going to keep going along. I know I got some stuff, but I'm just going to go along until I get married. And then things will change. And all the married people said, nope. Right? Don't be deceived. Guess what? Wherever you go right there along with you. And you bring everything right there with you. Getting married doesn't change that. Graduating doesn't change that. Having kids doesn't change that. In fact, those things usually just complicate and elaborate the issues that you already are dealing with, right? How long will you let it go on? I want you to sit down this week, journal, write down, contemplate, talk to someone, talk to your life group, and answer these 3 questions. And then next week, come back, and we're going to pick it up from right there. At this time, at all of our other locations, I'm going to turn it over to your location pastor to close out the experience.